On PM Express tonight, Ghanaians' new mission in Norway. There's a huge controversy about this. The minority MPs accuse government of inflating the cost. It has generated a whole furor, including forcing the Foreign Affairs Minister, our chief diplomat, to act in the way that many criticize as undiplomatic in the House. We'll be watching the video shortly on that. But it all stemmed from the allegation that the minority put out today. A 100-year-old 6-bedroom residence being turned into Ghana's embassy in Norway. It's at the heart of the controversy. The previous owner, according to the minority guys, bought the property in 2014 for $2.9 million. Now, they explain they then sold to an unknown buyer for $3.5 million just in August 2017. Ghana wants to buy that and use that as its mission in Norway, the foreign ministry. And they're buying this property, again, according to the minority, at $12.2 million. So you could do the calculations and see the gap. A difference of $8.6 million. This is what the minority is questioning. The Minister of the Foreign Affairs, however, was in Parliament today on this. And it says processes towards acquiring this property has been halted because of the same concerns that she has. Of course, the minority claims $50 million has already been disbursed as far as this is concerned. And so they're raising concerns about there is already an intention, a commitment to pay for this in spite of the inflated nature of it, alleged inflated nature of it. In fact, we are hearing tonight the minority again insisting that already government had sent somebody from Ghana to go and look for the property. The person had recommended a purchase, and approval has been given. The finance minister made the disbursement of $50 million. It's all but done, and then the minority spotted it. That's the only reason that they are backing out. That is the claim from the minority. We've heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister today, who says this has been halted. It's not true. She found out she had reservations, and so this deal won't go through. However, this then turned into a confrontation just outside the main hall of Parliament. We'll be examining that footage shortly. But going into the details of this, what is this really about? What are the facts as the majority side have it, as well as the minority side? But most importantly, how can this be resolved going forward? Seeing that part of this money, as we learned from Parliament today, may already have been released. We'll be interrogating this here on PMS with the guests when we return.
What are you hiding? You're hiding the truth. Hiding what? The media is covering it. Hiding what? The media is covering it.
Whether I've heard number one, number two, if anything has been done about it. There's no acceptance of any offer. You can film it.
Are you coming to assault me? Hey, no.
So what you just watched there is what happened just after this played out in the main chamber of the House, on the floor of the House itself. They spilled over onto the floor of Parliament, where, as you see there, the Foreign Affairs Minister was engaged in a big heated exchange with Okudzeto Ablako, who happens to be the chair, ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee. He raised the issues about the alleged inflated cost of this building in Norway that Ghana is looking to purchase to become its offices there. And it appears Sam George, who is MP for Ningo Pram, attempted to film that conversation. The minister didn't take kindly to that and pointed and said, yeah, you can film it, and that turns into a scuffle that then they were separated. And you see the minister exactly doing, objecting to being recorded. Subsequently, she did a press conference and she explained what happened, because apparently Sam George had threatened that he is going to take the matter up with the Privileges Committee. We'll watch that shortly in the course of the show. But let me bring in the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, who is one of my guests in the studio today, Honorable Arnold Dompre. Mr. Dompre, thank you for your time here on PM Express. I'm grateful to have you. Also joining me is Hassan Suhini. He is a minority member of parliament, but obviously part of the team of minority members who probed this matter and found evidence to back their claim, the claims they've made today on the floor of Parliament, which caused a bit of a stir on the floor itself. I want to start with you, Chairman. What we just watched there, were you there when this happened?
Well, I was in Parliament today. I was there. I think you saw me.
Yes, yes. You
You
were standing just beside the minister whilst she was having action with Okudzeto Ablakwa.
Yeah, I think that first of all, good evening to your viewers and your fans. It was unfortunate what happened. I think that the minister got very emotional. Well, we've witnessed in other places of the world where the practical exchange of fisticuffs, and we thank God that it did not degenerate. At least they were able to restore calm. And if you watch the footage, I was walking the minister away back because it was most unfortunate. And I know my brother Sam George also wouldn't have loved to be engaged in any confrontation of that nature. We shouldn't entertain things like that. Parliament should be a chamber where we express, however dissenting your views are, we should be able to entertain and tolerate one another. It was unfortunate, but I'm not trying to justify it. When my good friend, my ranking member, some of the languages he used, it got her very emotional. I thought that notwithstanding, Minister, maybe next time she would have been much more tolerant than what happened. Afterwards, I went close to her and I realized that she was not too excited about what happened. We will take this opportunity and I apologize on her behalf. I think when she held a press conference, she did apologize. I want to still apologize to Ghanaians for what happened. We promise a thing like that would not happen again. We are public officers, and a certain behavior is expected of us. We shouldn't go below the belt. It's unfortunate. We promise that will not happen again.
Yeah. You seem to suggest, and kindly raise your voice slightly for me, you seem to suggest that, and because you were there, you saw this, the minister overreacted and you've apologized on her behalf. It's an acceptance that she was in the wrong.
Well, we are human. No? All of us are human. One way or the other, we make mistakes, and she was emotional. There's no doubt about it. And the position we find ourselves are a position of influence, and they are also positions of privileged. And these privileged positions comes with a certain expectation in terms of behavioral pattern. So I am not here to draw lines and say, well, she was wrong, but I thought that she could have done better. And she herself had admitted that next time she should be much more careful how she would have gone about it. So it was most unfortunate.
Yeah. I'll come to Suhini because of what she said, and she referenced the press conference. So if we have the press conference of the minister post the event, I want us to get our audience to watch it because she provided further clarity on what happened. Do we have it? Let's watch the minister after the press conference.
And then you're talking about alleged. Do I look like somebody who can assault a man?
So we'll take one more in English and then we'll take a few more in...
There's a video going out there, so you may want to speak to that.
The video was a heated conversation between myself and Okudzeto Ablakwa, who is the ranking member. And in the conversation, I was very disappointed, and he was also talking back, and I was making my point clear to him that I felt he should have consulted me or asked me where we were at concerning this Oslo matter before going on the floor, because if he had, I would have told him that it's no longer an issue. And that is how it was a very heated conversation. And I think that I mean, that is allowed.
When you went off,
I went off. Yes, and then let me say that as we were having that heated conversation, Sam George had his phone up recording it. That is a violation of privacy. That is not acceptable. Why is everybody talking about, I mean, stretching my hand to do what? To hit him, to assault him? How would I do that?
So what was you doing?
What was I going to? I was talking to him that why are you recording? I'm sure you heard me saying, why are you recording? Why are you recording this?
He says he said it to the Privileges Committee.
It's good, let him go, because then I will also go to the Privileges Committee and talk about the fact that he violated my privacy. I was having a conversation with somebody, whether I was heated or not, it was a conversation. He had no right to violate it by putting a phone in our face, actually in my face, trying to record it. That is not acceptable.
Okay, so were you relax. There's one more
It was
question.
A gesture. It was not it was a gesture.
There is one more
with my hand, but it definitely was not an attempt to assault him, to slap him.
And I play that just to get that in context. I don't get the sense of a remorseful minister. She says, somebody asks, the man wants to take you to the prison. Yeah, let him go. I mean,
my brother, this is something I don't want to overly dwell on, okay? I've told you what my point of view is, and if that is the impression you have, let's leave it at that. We can still leave it as it is, and I don't intend to dwell on this thing overly. Okay. I made my point, and that's it.
That's it. Trini?
Well, let me say good evening.
Were you there, by the way?
Yes, I was there. And I think a lot of things happened today that made me very sad for our democracy. And
not the substance yet, because we'll go to the substance shortly.
Yes, I know. I will. One of the things that made me very sad is what you have started this conversation with, the conduct of Ghana's foremost diplomat. I mean, Tenet, however, she is leading Ghana's diplomacy, and a lot of restraint is expected of somebody leading a nation such as Ghana in terms of our diplomatic affairs, no matter the level of provocation, when in this case there was even none, can justify the conduct that she
was being filmed. She felt her privacy was being invaded.
And you see, I must commend my colleague Anodompre for the roles that he has played since this story.
He's been a peacemaker today.
He was,
and for some reason he's in white. So
he was the one who intervened after one of our colleagues, tried to ward her off and walked her off the scene. And I am not surprised that even on this platform, he still finds it necessary to concede that the minister could have behaved better.
And apologize.
But then it is scandalous that the minister herself, even after the event, can't come to the acceptance that so much is expected of her, given the role that she performs on behalf of this nation as a diplomat. It is scandalous, and it just tells you the level of intolerance that, some government appointees are capable of, dishing out to their opponents.
She's human. She got the emotions, got a better part of her. This was a sensitive matter for her.
We choose our best,
and so
to lead our diplomacy.
We could all be in this.
And in diplomacy, Evans, you can come across a lot of frustrating moments. The way you come out of it determines your mettle. And if we have our foremost, diplomat conducting herself in the way that she did, I think it is an embarrassment on us as a nation, first and foremost. And the least she can do is to admit that human failing of hers and not to be arrogant about it. It makes an already bad situation worse. And Evans, the talk about her being filmed amounting to an intrusion of her privacy cannot stand the test of time. You and I are journalists. We know about a public figure in a private place, a public figure in a public place, and the privacy that person enjoys. That place she was standing is a public place, and she's a public figure. So she has no right of privacy in that moment. Yeah. It is journalism 101. Once you are a public figure and you are found in a public place, you cannot plead privacy. And so it cannot be, a remedy for that callous and undiplomatic conduct. I think the best thing for her is to stop the bleeding by showing remorse and by demonstrating that her human feelings got the better part of her, and not to be intransigent.
From what we've heard, she was expected to do another press conference in the evening, but that has been rescheduled to tomorrow. And so I'm pretty sure she gets to sleep over it. Maybe there'll be a different approach to it tomorrow. But that's where we are with that controversy, what you just watched there. Let's move to
with you elsewhere. I'm sure in another country, people would have been calling for her head for just this conduct, because we can't trust such a person to lead very difficult negotiations on behalf of this country.
Let's move
in terms of the diplomatic sector.
Quickly to the substance of the thing, of why what happened, what you just witnessed happened. Chairman, this stemmed from an allegation that the minority made, and they produced what they believe to be evidence to back it. I know the speaker said that he would not admit the evidence as was presented on the floor, but essentially, this building that we want to buy in Norway to host our mission there, originally, from what we're told from the minority, was supposed to cost the person who bought it 3 million, and we are buying it for 12 million plus. Okwudito Ablakwa says, your ranking member, says he brought this to your attention last week. What do you know about this?
Well, first of all, I think it's important we all put on record that even before the budget estimate, consideration of the details of the budget estimate has started, we had told the world, so to speak. We've been to America, we've been to Europe, we've been to parts of Asia, we've been to Africa, parts of Africa, because as part of our oversight rule, and let me put on record also that this is the first time the Committee on Foreign Affairs was involved in such outward oversight rule. Okay. And was all, as a follow-up to the 50 million Societe Generale facility we had contracted.
Okay.
And
in
so
2016?
Yes, we wanted to ensure that we get value for money. Yeah. The money was used for the intended purpose. Yeah. And to that end, we have received a wonderful cooperation and collaboration from the ministry, and particularly from the minister herself. I would have wished my ranking was here, because most of the trips, we made them together. We had the committee leadership, we have traveled together, and we have had extensive discussion on this loan facility together. Now, when we started the consideration of the budget details, okay, the ministry had come before us and made an extensive presentation in terms of the details of the budget, okay? Now, I was surprised when my ranking, after I had seconded the motion, moved by the minister, and then he was supporting the motion, was making his point. We had come to an agreement, myself and him, that relative to the controversy surrounding this Oslo matter, it was important we get to the bottom of the matter, and hence critical that we distinguish the Oslo, the intention of the ministry to purchase a facility in Oslo, and make sure that we unravel all the controversies before we even include it in the report. So as at time the report was ready, we had still not resolved the issues. He had issues, I also had some issues. So if you look, I have a copy of the report here. Okay. If you read the report from A to Z, from page 1 to the last page, 11th page, you don't find anywhere in the report that we had done any narration on the Oslo purchase. Okay, that understanding must be put out there. Then again, later on, we asked the ministry to come to the committee with better particulars on their bid to purchase this facility. The ministry got back to us. That was when the figure 16.5 million came up. $16.5 million came up. Then earlier on, the Minister of Finance are also giving us.
What is the 16.5 million? What was it?
The 16.5 million was the cost that the seller of the facility in question was proposing. That's, I mean, that was what they are ready to take for the facility. Okay. $16.5 million. Then we got a correspondent for the Minister of Finance. And then we saw that a certain $15 million has been given to the same ministry. And it was supposed to help in goods and services for Gwangju, Mauritius, and Oslo. Okay, so we're a bit alarmed that at what breadth are they going to use this 16.5 million for the purchase? And at what breadth are they using this 15 million received from the Ministry of Finance, where a number of missions and Oslo has also been mentioned again? It was intriguing. So I advise, we had an extensive debate. Rankin earlier on has said that he wanted to go to the media. I said, well, these are foreign issues. Let's wait. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's officially write to them. And then when they respond, based on their response, we can decide to go to the media. And I must congratulate him. He was patient to that level. Then I did an official letter to the minister, asking them, first of all, we needed to know the valuation report on that facility. We needed to know more details of the location, the kind of facility that was costing that much. We needed to have all these details. The minister got back to me on phone, and I conveyed same to my ranking, because we've had a very wonderful working and cordial relationship. So she said that they were getting ready, they were putting their documents together. And originally we were supposed to have moved the motion last Saturday. And then she had just returned from Japan with His Excellency the President. So she said she was too tired to do a presentation, so we pushed it on to today. Unfortunate, I would have thought that because you are writing to the ministry, it was fair for us to wait to hear from them. Probably if we had waited, or if we had been a bit patient, and my ranking had, spoken to the reports, as put that there, especially where the two of us had come to an agreement that because of the controversy surrounding Oslo, it was important we distinguish Oslo out and sort it out before, we could come and deal with it. And agreeing with me, the respected Honorable Muntaka also came to make the same point, that we take out Oslo and make sure we deal with it and still go ahead and pass the motion.
Which was passed today?
Yes, the motion was passed for the budget. It was for the ministry, was passed. So, and then later on, the minister made us, all of us, aware that she had also seen these controversies in terms of the figures and the inconsistencies inherent, and hence has given a stern, order that they should halt and stay execution. So that's the crux of the matter.
On the thing, but then, yes, Suhini, you were part of the team, from what I understand, that probed this. What led to this probe?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way.
You don't put it that way.
I think
how would you put it?
The members of the Committee of Foreign Affairs and all those who helped in the process deserve the commendation. And I would like our ranking member, who in this case is Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, to be given the full credits for, what the minority was able to save the whole nation as far as this transaction is concerned. And I like the narration of the chairman of the committee when he talks about the willingness to collaborate, to ensure that all doubts were cleared and, the issues ironed out if indeed it was a genuine error. And that is why I agree with the ranking member when after Speaker ruled to reject the evidence that he, presented, when he said this was a sad day for our democracy, because the Speaker went as far as impugning ill motives to the ranking member and the minority in general by saying that we were engaged in self-serving. I think that the narration of the chairman shows that this was not a team that was just engaged in playing to the gallery, but this was a team that was concerned about saving the pest of this country.
What was being considered was a report, not the Oslo. And there was an agreement to separate the Oslo. And so why was it necessary to bring it up on the floor today when they were considering the report?
There was no agreement. There was a proposal. The agreement would have come if the ministry's letter had come, and then everyone was satisfied with the ministry's
Chairman, I'll come to
letter.
you.
The chairman,
okay,
do you want to give the chairman time?
No.
I'll come to you. Chairman, I'll come to you. Chairman, I'll come to you.
Okay,
because
when is
that
that?
is not the substantive issue I want to address. I mean, that is the misconception that is out there, and even some members of parliament, especially on the majority side, including the speaker himself, may have bought into that whole thinking that the report had nothing to do with Oslo. But you are talking about passing estimates for a ministry, in this case, the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Now, that estimates includes a budget line for Oslo. So,
And other missions. Let's read that. It says establishment of diplomatic missions is Oslo, Norway, consulate in Port Louis, Mauritius, and Guangzhou, China.
It's not a budget.
this is not the
Second.
budget.
No, that's not the budget.
That's not the budget.
It's not a budget.
But this is the approval from the finance ministry.
It's a correspondence
from the finance ministry.
Yes,
Okay.
but you see, the finance ministry.
But in the budget, did it include the expenditure
For the Oslo?
For Oslo?
No.
It didn't.
It's not there.
Okay.
Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
There was a loan facility that was taken by the previous government, the NDC, a $50 million facility. Now, this $50 million facility was supposed to be drawn down by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and used for the renovation of our missions abroad and, in some cases, the purchase of missions in countries that we do not have missions. Now, in this report that was to be considered, the ministry complained, among other things, that the draw down of the money have been slow. And utilization in that case have been slow. And then went on to talk about how they intend to utilize that $50 million in 2019. Now that $50 million, mind you, is part of the internally generated fund of the ministry.
Okay. So
and if you
it's a
check
loan. We're
the
going to
budget-
use that to defray the debt.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be expended in 2019. It is to be expended in 2019. And as part of the drawdown that is expected of the ministry, part of the $50 million, if passed by Parliament, will be used for this Oslo project.
Yeah.
So it is important to understand that you are talking about the 2019 expenditure of the ministry. And the expenditure for 2019, as this report indicates, includes the chancery and the residents in Norway. And so you cannot say that just go ahead and pass it, because it has an impact on the appropriation of the ministry and how much is expected of the ministry. I mean, how much the ministry is expected to spend by the end of 2019. Because in 2020, the ministry will be expected to file a report of how they use the money based on the appropriation Parliament gave. And the ministry have indicated in their report, which is captured in this report that was being discussed, that as part of the projects they will undertake in 2019, the Oslo building will be purchased.
I don't see it in the report.
They have,
It's not there. That's the report.
you see,
I'm looking at the part,
see,
but it doesn't include
Evans, this report is usually, and we all belong to committees, is usually a summary of the projections of every ministry. And when you go to the committee level, they come with volumes like this, almost the size of another budget.
But when you claim that
And
it's
in
there,
that-
you have to prove it. But it's not in the report.
Oh, Evans, I can show you when the ministry appeared before the committee, the letters they brought. And the letters included how they were going to use this portion for that project. Response for issues raised during the Parliamentary Select Committee on Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Breakdown of 2019 budget. Now, the breakdown can be located, and then they give you the breakdown. The provision is also indicated. And that's
This is what you're reading.
fantastic. Now, when you check the releases, the provision that is made, 24 million, 15 million was what was released in 2018. So they are making a report of what was released to them in 2018. This is what I was looking for. briefing of the 50 million credit facility under the Societe Generale Ghana Limited. This was also brought to the committee by the ministry. And in that, you will find Chancery residential relocation cost, Paris, Tel Aviv. This was what they did in 2018. Then they talk about what they want to do in the ensuing year. And that is where you have an allocation made for the Oslo project. It is here. G, purchase of Chancery and residency, 16,500,000. It's here.
I'll come to you.
And this was brought to the committee. So if it didn't find its way into this report, it does not mean that the ministry does not have an intention to expend this money in 2019. Sorry. In 2019, they have indicated in their report, and it's here. That is the G, Oslo, purchase of Chancery and residency. So if this report, this brief one, is approved, it means all of this is approved for the ministry to spend.
Okay.
Well,
is that what it is?
No, that's not it. I think that we must put matters in context, and with the greatest respect, my friend here, I would have wished Ranking would have been here, because, you know, there are agreements that we enter into without necessarily putting it on paper, because we've been working together, and we've known each other way back at the Nooks. So we work together, you know, on so many fronts. Now, let me say that on the Oslo, we came to a gentleman agreement between myself and the Ranking, that because the ministry was yet to give us a better particulars, it was important we wait until they respond to our letter before we include it in the report. Now, the report, let me correct something. This report, it is not a skeletal representation of the budget estimates of the ministry. It is not. It is not skeletal.
So this is detailed.
This is detailed enough. It may look in light to you, but it captures all the essential.
We all belong to committees, and we know that not all we discuss at the committee level
it captures all the essential. I mean, necessarily all the essential points that we have to discuss. Now, you know what we're doing at that material time was to approve or not a motion seeking the passage of the ministry's budget. And if you look at our standing orders, we had agreed by consensus the content of the report. And by that consensus, the Oslo had been distinguished and was supposed to be dealt with on a different level. It was not supposed to be discussed there, but he raised it. Now, technically, let me admit though, that technically, I mean, as a member of Parliament, and we have extended oversight over the ministry's functionality, it wasn't really out of context that he raised it. But yet, the question of admissibility comes up. Because, you see, let me tell you, and again, I would have been happy if the Ranking had been here. I tell you, most of the document produced by the Ranking, I had also seen it. Because the source at Oslo had copied me. So all the, and I must commend him, when he came to confer with me, most of the document he had, I also had them. Now, I could not, because the documents were not verifiable. This is an individual, a well-wisher, a Ghanaian who lives in Oslo, who feels that we should understand in context what happens at Oslo, especially on matters on the purchase of this facility. So that has been done. But where my friend used the document as, you know, a very reliable, you know, verifiable document, that was where I had issues with him. Especially where we had come to an understanding the way to go about it.
I have a clarification to ask though. The amount of money released by the finance ministry for on the Oslo, I mean, including the 50 million that was going to be approved, was any of this going to be used for the Oslo building?
You see, Oslo, let me put this understanding out there. Oslo, we don't have a mission.
That's what we're looking for.
Yes, we're seeking to have a mission eventually. What we have there is an honorary consul. And that is the approach, the first steps that every country adopts when you want to enter into a different, you know, terrain. You start with an honorary consul, where the need for you to go a full-fledged mission, then you do that. If you look at the report, if I'll just take you to part of the report which mentioned the If you look at page 11, if you have the report, page 11.
The committee noted that the 50
challenges,
million,
8.6, challenges in disbursement of the facility for renovation and acquisition of properties for mission. If you go downwards, the last paragraph, I mean, that's paragraph.
So there are many stakeholders involved in the process of award of the contract.
This one, it's quoted over $5 million Ghana cedi, $5 million as the amount which has been spent from the 50 million. Do you know why? Because we had insisted throughout our discussions with the ministry that we need to pay particular attention to due diligence to ensure that we get value for money eventually as a country.
So what's the Oslo one part of this?
So the point is that, the point I'm making is that the ministry from day one has been overly careful about the expenditure and what to use the 50 million for. That is how come for close to 2 years, only 5 million has been spent out of that amount, because of the different legal regimes from different jurisdictions and the likes.
If we can narrow down to the Oslo for me, because
now for the Oslo, yes, I'll come to that. The Oslo, where we had a difficulty were the two correspondents that came from the two ministries, the Ministry of Finance and then our mother ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. Because the correspondent they brought to us, when we had asked, we had demanded for better particulars, came with a 16.5.
Yeah.
This is where that is what motivated me as a chairman to write officially to the minister to come and explain to us. When we saw the 16.5, we were surprised, especially when the 15 million also came in. And then we realized that Gwangju, Mauritius, and again, Oslo was coming up. That was when we said that, look, we had to get to the bottom of this matter. And then we came to an agreement, myself and the ranking. So even though Oslo was mentioned profusely, consistently, repeatedly during the presentation, you could see that conspicuously is missing in this report. And it was for a reason.
Okay, so what it is that what you've approved for 2019, the budget you've approved for the ministry, it doesn't include any expenditure for Oslo.
That's it.
Okay, but however, in the finance ministry amount that has been released, 50 million, it didn't include only Oslo, there were others.
Yes.
Gwangju. What about those? What about the Gwangju, the Mauritius?
You see, the Mauritius, the 15 million had already been given to the ministry. It was given way back October 2018.
True.
Okay, so I demanded to ask, I demanded those questions that was okay, so what happened to the 15 million? And then they said they use it for these three missions. Then I said, okay.
Did they include Oslo?
Oslo, yes. Oslo.
So they've used it?
Oslo inclusive out of the 15 million. Then we asked why. And then they said that we had an honorary consul who needs to work there. They had made some expenditure on these personalities.
So paying rent for the Oslo
Well, we don't have the details yet. So it's all part of the reasons why we are rating.
But it wasn't used
for the purchase.
For the purchase of the controversial 12-point-something million.
Well, if you call it controversial, well, this is your view.
Because it has not been used. It's a subject of controversy.
It has not been used.
It hasn't been used.
No, for any.
But part of it has been used already for the other places, including the honorary consul.
You need to distinguish the 50 million from this 50 million.
I get it. I've distinguished it.
Part
but
of
the 50 million you've approved doesn't include expenditure for Oslo.
No.
However, the finance ministry disbursement of 50 million in October.
It does include.
It does include. And that amount, was it meant for the purchase of the building? You said no.
No, it wasn't meant for the purchase.
The upkeep of the
honorary consul until we are able to establish a full-fledged mission.
Okay.
That's a distinction. And I think I make myself clear.
I get it.
Evans, it's important that we are fair to...
He said the whole thing. I hadn't finished, but...
You haven't finished?
Yes, I was trying to use documents. Very important.
Evans,
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. I'll give you time to explain
this. Let's look at 8.6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of the report. Of the report, it says the committee noted that the ministry in 2016 contracted a loan facility of $50 million to renovate selected missions abroad and to acquire new properties. A total of 33 missions are to benefit from the facility. Categorical. A total of 33.
We have 56 missions.
I'll explain why I say it is categorical, that a total of 33 is to benefit from this facility of 50 million. And so per this report, the ministry is seeking clearance to use the $50 million to the benefit of 33 missions. Are you following on that? The minister, and you can cross-check from Parliament tomorrow, when she was moving the motion on the floor of Parliament, made reference to Oslo twice as one of the missions that will be opened in 2019 as part of this 33. Again, if you look at the summary of disbursement for 2019, there Oslo lies again, purchase of chancery and residence.
Which is summary of disbursement? That's
the summary of disbursement of the 50 million.
That the ministry presented to the committee to consider.
Exactly.
But the ministry says because of the committee, they isolated that from.
But this is the disbursement, and Oslo is there. The ministry saying so does not change the black and white that is before us.
If you're watching television, these are pictures that the minority had provided to show the building in question that we are discussing today in Oslo. It is watched on television. The minority provided this, and they've been probing this for a while. And these are the pictures of the building in question that we supposedly had been, scouting to see if we can purchase it at that cost of 12 million, which is now a subject of some investigation by the committee, which is still happening. So that's the background to what you're watching.
So Evans, that's the first part of the story. The report talked about 33 missions. The minister, in moving the motion, gave us some of the missions and mentioned Oslo. And it is in the Hansard. You can check it tomorrow. It will be ready. And you will see that she mentioned Oslo as being part of the 33 that will benefit from this $50 million. Again, the disbursement report, the summary of disbursement report that the ministry presented the committee included Oslo. So at what point did the ministry decide to take Oslo out? Was it when they got caught that they decided to say they are sorry? They should be, honest to people. The second leg of the discussion is what Chairman spoke about. The fact that another letter has emerged from the Ministry of Finance to the committee indicating that an allocation, in fact, a release of about 16.5 million, which, mind you, is supposed to be the exact costs of the Oslo project. That is the residence and the...
Is this a new one I haven't heard about, or this is a part of the... This is 15. It's not, that's the same thing I'm not talking about.
It's 16. I'm talking about 16. The letter...
The one that includes Mauritius, and that's the way you're talking about.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, it's 15. Forgive me. It's 15.
That's what, yeah.
Forgive me. But you see, I can see we don't have time, so that's why I'm going through. Because you see, some of the figures don't even add up. Look, if you look at the internal generated fund of the ministry, this report quotes the source as 2019 budget. And it tells you that the ministry gets 30 million for goods and services. But this budget that it says is a source has 34 million. There's some 4 million that is not accounted for. But we will pass it. Or we have passed it. So you see, when you do the mathematics, you will understand why I'm saying that it is the exact cost. Because there have been some additional $1 million here, $3 million here that can't be accounted for. But because we are constrained by time, we are forced to, run through these things. So the point I'm making is that the second part of the discussion is this release from the Ministry of Finance. That again indicates that some allocation will be made to Oslo, including other missions.
Okay, let me.
So the question is, and we have evidence that the Oslo building currently is being renovated.
The 12.5 million building?
It's being renovated.
How can it be renovated when,
we do not
when they haven't been paid, when the money hasn't been paid?
So you see,
according to the minister.
First of all, Evans, according to the minister, it's just her word. I will expect that we in the media behave like the Norwegian media. Get the documents, get the people who are holding our purse, not to convince us by word of mouth, but to actually show by evidence that they had no ill motive as far as this was concerned. Because the Norwegian media have done their work and they have come to the conclusion that this is an unethical, transaction. And I hope that the Ghanaian media will do the same.
Is it true that this building has been renovated?
Well, first of all, we don't own the building, okay? Let's put matters in context. We don't have ownership over the building. And then, so whether it is being renovated or not, I don't find it very substantial concern. What I know is that there has been an exponential increase in price, okay? Now, it is true that the matter has been discussed extensively in the Norwegian media, and then they had come to a conclusion that it was unethical. And I have that documentation and the sites where this discussion, and I've discussed with the ranking as well at that level. So that conclusion had been reached already. I mean, on our parts as the leaders of the committee, we have
reached the conclusion that the deal was unethical.
No, I mean from these sites.
Okay.
From the Norwegian.
That the claim the Norwegian media had concluded that it's unethical.
So it was all part of the motivations why we've written to the ministry to have a further discussion on the matter. So all put in context. But you see, interestingly, one of the things we were very much interested in was evaluation report. Today I got hold of that report, and the quotations in this report is not different from the quotations that were given to us by the ministry. So on the face value of it, I can conclude that nobody has done anything wrong. But we are saying that we as a country, we are looking at our interests. We are looking for value for money. Are we getting value for money?
Are we?
No, I mean, to this end, I don't think that we are. And I think that is why I wrote, otherwise I wouldn't have written that letter. Okay. And so, if you look at only the document.